First we're gonna rock, then we're gonna roll, then we let it pop, don't let it go. X gon' give it to you, he gon' give it to you. X gon' give it to you, he gon' give it to you. First we're gonna rock, then we're gonna roll, then we let it pop, don't let it go. X gon' give it to you, he gon' give it to you. X gon' give it to you, he gon' give it to you. X gon' give it to you. Fuck with you to get it on your own.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? Where we're going to talk about Lovecraft Country, which is a phenomenal series on HBO Max. And joining us, as usual, is Jon Montiel, my buddy, who's always on with me. And we have Charlene Thompson-Wamsley and Jon Wamsley. Jon Wamsley is from the Last Roundup Horror Show. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. And podcasting group. And Charlene is a movie buff and list maker extraordinaire and just a general awesome person who basically, we originally had mentioned to Jon that, hey, maybe ask your wife because we hear she's cool, but we hadn't decided what we were going to do yet for this episode. And then she found out we were doing Lovecraft Country. Originally, she was like, I'm busy. I got stuff to do. You all have your fun, which we understood. And then she found out we were doing Lovecraft Country, and she was like, okay, you're doing a black show, and none of you look black and probably are not black. So therefore, you need a black person on the show. And we truly appreciate that because we want diverse voices. And yes, we want to hear a personal black perspective, with understanding she's not representing an entire race or culture. Her opinion, her take, what she can give to the show. So we're very, very, very grateful that you decided to join us. And with that, just going to say, if you have not watched Lovecraft Country, probably don't listen to this podcast until you do. And also, if you have and you aren't aware, there is a podcast out there called Lovecraft Country Radio. And it is by Ashley C. Ford and Shannon Houston. Shannon Houston's one of the writers for the series. And Ashley C. Ford is a black podcast host, writer, and horror aficionado. And it's an incredible podcast and gives incredible insight to each episode. And it's episode by episode. So if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. So with that, Lovecraft Country is great. I mean, it is loosely based off of the H.P. Lovecraft mythology, and I say loosely because it's not like all of his stuff, but it is his stuff. And as you may or may not know, H.P. Lovecraft was a racist asshat. So it's even more beautiful because the series is centered around a black family, and it highlights the many forms of racism, especially in the 1950s. And unfortunately, you can still see much of it and many of it today. But the series doesn't make a big thing about H.P. Lovecraft being a racist. They call it out and then they move on and just follow on with the story. And I thought that was lovely. And what happens is you're following the main character, which is Atticus Freeman, as he's returning home to search for his father. And it turns out that his bloodline on his mama's side is basically imbued with extra magic, because way back in the day, this really rich white guy who was creepy and had a lot of magic and had a lodge with a whole bunch of other creepy white men who had money and power, raped one of his slaves, imbued the fetus with extra magic because he was going to, of course, use it in a ritual. And then you're following along where they're slowly figuring this out and being attacked on all sides for various reasons because people are after his blood. Then you have to deal with your standard racism, and then you have to deal with subplots where people want to kill him for this, people want to kill him for that, and then there's just his own family trauma with an abusive dad. And it's just like an interesting, here's the whole plot, and then there's subplots that pop off of it. And you just see these characters attacked from all sides, which makes you very aware of the fact that pretty much every black person in America probably is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Oh, and yeah. If not, I'm highly shocked. And with that, I'd just like to say that really huge highlights of this stuff was you had amazing, amazing characters. They were very well developed, multidimensional. Even some of the bad guys weren't just one-sided. If you had a one-dimensional character, it was probably just a white person. And it made sense because, if you're a black person, you're going to see somebody coming out to kill you as very one-dimensional. You're not going to really look at, I wonder what their motivation is. You don't care. I loved the black female positivity. You had so many wonderful female characters. They were different body shapes, different skin tones. They were very diverse in what they could do. They picked locks, they hot-wired cars, they were astronomers, they were, mechanical engineers, they were highly intelligent, they were independent women. I loved every moment of that. It was happy spot. In fact, and like as far as body positivity, you never heard any body shaming except for when you threw white women in there and they were shaming another white woman. So, which makes you wonder if it's, you know, more of what the white gaze does to the world, especially to ourselves. And I love that a whole bunch. It was like, just, I could have just watched these women in the show by themselves because it was just lovely to see. Yeah, the whole bunch, even with the little girl, Diana, she was, you know, an artist. She played baseball. Her best friend was a little boy, which I was like, thank you. Doesn't always have to be girls with girls. It's great. I just appreciated the hell of it. I loved the way they just, everything was smoothly integrated. When I say that, it wasn't like, hey, let's try to force in a scene where this is happening. It just kind of happened, you know, and they did it really well. And they did their research. The background was really good. They had these, which I'll let Charlene talk more about it because she knows more, but they had voices and poems and songs that were overlaying it and imagery that just was really took you there. And I can't say enough about how great this is. I think everybody should watch this series for sure. It just, even like representation that you don't normally see, like you don't see a lot of where they send around, like Tick's character was a sci-fi horror geek in the 1950s.
And a black man.
Yeah.
It's just not something you see very often. What you normally see, especially stuff in the 1950s, is athletes and military. And, you know, you don't really see a nice little geek who just loves his stuff. And they even threw in there that one of the main female characters, Letitia, Letty, she also was in the sci-fi horror group, which was even kind of more rare for one girls and one a black girl to be in, you know, sci-fi horror and fantasy. And I just really, really loved all that. And with all my babbling done, one other thing that I thought was weird, that has no relation to anything other than the fact that it's a Lovecraft kind of weird thing. There was an old 1990s movie called Cast a Deadly Spell. And I kind of wonder, like, I have not read Lovecraft Country, the book. So I don't know if it maybe has nothing to do with anything, if it's something maybe that author did, or if it's something that series did, because Cast a Deadly Spell was also an HBO movie. But Hippolyta was a character in Cast a Deadly Spell, not the same one as you see in Lovecraft Country, but it was a witch, and she was a black woman that owned property and owned a dance school and was a really awesome character. And there was also a character, oh, what was her name? She was basically a girl who's going to be a sacrifice. She was white. What did I put down? Olivia Hackshaw, that was her name. And this character, the actress, she was also really pale, really light blonde hair. There were scenes of her riding around on a horse, chasing a unicorn. And when I first watched Lovecraft Country, I wondered if there was a tie-in or a model of that, you know, like if maybe when Matt, I think his name Matt Ruff, who wrote the book, maybe if he modeled his book characters off of those two, or if, you know, HBO did it. And I just thought that was wondering, I didn't know if anybody else watched Cast a Deadly Spell and picked up on that at all, or if it was just my weird thing. But, but with that, I will shut up for a while and let my guests and my co-host take over. So whoever, just start talking.
Well,
take it, Char.
I mean, I don't want to take it just because I'm like the obligatory black guest here, you know, for the black show, but
heard you were cool.
On the weekend of Martin Luther King's birthday, we're celebrating, you know, like I don't want to take over, but yes.
No, take over. Go ahead.
There were, as you said, there were, you know, lots of different skin tones, lots of really strong female actresses in here. And I had to like actually make a list of all of their names and stuff because like they're not super duper familiar to me. I really liked the juxtaposition of Journey Smollett and her sister Ruby, who is, I'm going to butcher her name, but it's an actress. Her name is Wunmi Masaku, and she's Nigerian born. And that's Ruby. That's, you know, Journey Smollett's sister. And she's like a thick, dark black girl. And I like the whole time that I watched that show, I was freaking obsessed with her skin. The way that it glowed under the lighting, like it had you could tell that there was like some bluish tint to the light, and it made her skin like this beautiful, perfect. Her skin was perfection. Like I was obsessed with her, especially because she's like a big, thick girl. I always gravitate towards girls that are a little bit thicker and curvy. And like, you could tell that she was put up on a pedestal as a figure of beauty, you know, being a big, dark-skinned black woman. Like she was the person that you saw in like the main sex scenes, you know, like in that show. So like, that was really, really lovely to see. I'm obsessed with her. I'm obsessed with her performance. And as we go and talk through like all of the episodes and stuff, I want to highlight some of the homages that they had to Black history and Black art as a whole. Just so well done. Not that the entire show was well done, but certain things were just beautiful and wondrous to behold, and their homage to Black arts and Black photography like throughout history, especially like in the Jim Crow history segment that this particular show centered on, Jim Crow South. You know, scary shit happening then, scary shit happening now too, but definitely scary shit happening then.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, Ruby was my favorite character.
Oh, was she? Man, like,
Yeah,
well,
she was.
I won't take into that. I'll let John and John Paul talk about. Yeah, yes, she's my favorite character. I was so.
I mean,
Yeah, I loved her too, especially
so
on
multidimensional.
my second watch through of it. So like, to say a lot happens in this show does not do that.
It has all the things.
It's got all the things. I feel like this is a multi-seasonal show, or it could be. I haven't read the book, so I don't know how it ends. I don't know if how they ended it is how the book ends.
Yeah.
So I'm no spoilers there, but like I wanted. There's just so much like that. That opening scene. Holy crap! Tig's dream, and then you see everything that he is: soldier, sci-fi nerd. I couldn't even give you all the references. Yeah, I couldn't even give you all the references out of that dream, but say for Cthulhu, what H.P. Lovecraft is known for, that mythos of the eldritch gods and stuff, which, you know, off topic, that's what the new season of Sabrina is about on Netflix. It deals with the eldritch gods.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah. So I'm super into that. I learned things on this show. I learned things on Watchmen too, the Tulsa riots. Like that's where I first even remember hearing about it. Maybe they glossed over that in history class, like they mentioned it, but I don't remember because it was such a minor detail. But then after seeing the event, it's like, that's not a minor detail. That was almost like a start of a genocide. Like, Jesus. Yeah, you know,
I will agree with that. Like I recall it from history, but I recall it being like a paragraph this big in a huge history book.
It was a blurb.
And those things stick in my mind because they're one-offs from what you normally see in the history book. And that would probably be the only reason why I remembered. I'm like, this seems like it should be more. But anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah, I totally agree. The thing that, aside from the learning and the horror, the acting in that show, I don't think I saw a single character and I was like, phone that in a little bit more.
Right. Everybody put their foot in it.
Dude, when Tig cried, I cried. That's how fucking good he was.
Jonathan Majors is a force. And I feel
That's
like
his name.
I feel like he's about to be everywhere, because how could he not? Like,
he's got such a face.
That
emotive face.
His face is so emotive.
Holy crap.
Like his skin is so clear and perfect. Let's not even get into that hot ass body. Like,
oh god,
what? Like, oh my god! Like, how can you even look like that in dress pants, in 50s dress pants? Like, he has muscles in places that I didn't know muscles were. Like, oh my goodness, Jonathan Majors. Like, what a dude! Like, I hope to see him in everything.
He is major.
He is major.
I was like, okay.
I do declare.
I mean, that body, like, what in the world? Like, but aside from him just being like, just like a hottie, like, what an actor, you know, like the range that he goes through, and the way that he gives empathy and makes you feel it and puts you in the moment. Like, and I can't even tell you anything else that dude has been in aside from this show. I kind of felt like, I guess this is his coming out party, because I never really remembered him in anything else, but like, what an actor.
I checked his IMDb briefly, and I can't remember
any of the stuff that you saw. Right. Yeah. Right. So like, this had to have been his coming out party.
Yeah. This was like his big.
He has to be like in many things after this. Like, geez.
And it was crazy seeing Journey Smollett or Smollett. I don't know. I think it's Smollett though.
I think Smollett, but I'm not positive either.
I remember her.
Wasn't that show called
I was a
Smollets or
kid?
something?
No, it was called On Our Own. because I looked that up recently.
Oh, okay.
Because I was like, what's the name of that show? Their whole family did a show, and it was the kids looking after each other, I think.
That is a nice picture.
Way back. It was like maybe 2 seasons if it was lucky, like TGIF style, you know. This was a really good show. It had everything you could want. Great acting, great the special effects was pretty cool. There were some, even digital, there were some bad, but there was some really cool for digital cool, because there wasn't that much practical stuff. I'm an effects guy, so I like my stuff practical, but I mean, Shoggoths this isn't Jurassic Park, guys. We're not building life-size animatronic Shoggoths for this show.
And because he's a special effects person, like he made me a little bit snobby about it, like to whereas before, like I just didn't care, and like now I'll see something and I'll be like, ew, that looked like garbage, and it's just because like he turned me into a special effects snob.
Yeah,
I don't know if I like it. I wish I was still in the dark.
Thanks,
it makes
John.
me enjoy things like a little bit less, you know, like because like he made me so snobby about like special effects and stuff, but like you turned on the light.
I did.
You turned on the light for me. Now I know what
I feel like the light got turned on for me. I'm turning it on for everyone else.
Yeah, like
because
you made me take the wrong pill. Now I know all this stuff is fake.
Well, you talk about the special effects. There was a good blend of practical and computer image in certain parts of this show, and then there was some really awful CGI.
Yeah, I mean, it can't all be perfect.
So like my favorite special effects were when Ruby, you know, when she would turn into that white lady after she drank that potion, so she could experience, you know, whiteness in a sense.
That was
and not even in a sense, but like,
plot.
but for real, like
like
shed your skin and then like and experience whiteness, and like whenever she would come back. Those special effects were rad. All right. Like, and like some of them you could see that it was totally digital. It didn't matter. It was just the whole premise of like shedding your skin, like and entering whiteness. Like it was some heavy shit. You know what I mean? Like it really was. And then like to actually look at it go down like in a physical manner.
Yeah. They
did a good job. They killed it.
I mean, they could have just done like a morph
or like a suit. You know, I thought like maybe she would be stepping out like into like a skin suit or something, like something extremely practical.
They made that
you know,
like and just slide down, and it was
kind
of gross, but fascinating. And
I like
you would see like the white face just fall down the back of her body, and you would just
that was so cool.
And then the first time she did it too.
That was nuts. Like while she was all bloody, that was great. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this, all it is.
Yeah, it was
gory sex,
Thank you. Primal, like all that.
John's happy face was gory sex.
And the one thing that was awesome about that was Ruby was so like individual. They couldn't fit her in a white woman. Like that's her. She could just bust. It was a temporary spell. It was not. But to me, it was like. White wasn't enough to contain her. She was too big of a too
she was
bright
much more.
Of
she was so much more than that.
Yeah, exactly.
And oddly, and this probably sounds bad, she was so beautiful that when they made her be that white woman, or when that white woman was kind of ugly.
She kind of was.
I think that was on purpose, though.
I think so too. I think it was a choice, like for sure. I think it was a choice.
She was the groundskeeper. I know that it was a convenient body in the script of it, but I mean, you know, when you're just looking at the contrast of this vibrant woman, this gorgeous, like, you know, her perfect skin that's glowing, and then you have this woman who's at best, you know, low end average looking white woman. You know?
I mean, like she gave me serious Trailer Park vibes. Like it was there was something kind of like a little bit trashy, but like a dressed up trashy when she was working in the department store and acting very hoity-toity.
She was perpetrating a fraud
with the petticoat dress and the big fluffy things and the gloves and the fascinator hats and stuff. Like it was like a perpetrating
lower
a fraud.
Middle class woman that was going to go and ask for the manager.
Yeah, right. But like you did find out that she was like a groundskeeper woman, and then I was like, oh well, that.
Well, she was like, that first.
Yeah, like well, at least like that makes sense on kind of like the lower standard of what I'm seeing on like what I would envision Ruby as a white woman to be, because like I just wanted those cheekbones to be there, and they just weren't there, and it was a bummer. Like
well, Ruby's they didn't white chicks
like,
her.
True.
Oh,
true.
That's just bad.
Listen, Check it out. That's funny in its own. That's another episode. We'll talk about that movie in another episode. Let
me know when we'll do it.
It's funny in its own right, though. Like I'm a fan. I'm sorry. I know it's terrible. All right, like that makeup was awful, but it's
I always
funny.
call that the reverse Soul Man.
That shit is funny.
Or like Soul Man 2, The Reckoning.
We're going off the track, but maybe that's a thought. The next one we all do together, we do like Soul Man with white chicks.
Call me.
There you go.
Call me for Soul Man and white chicks. That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, there's a double feature.
Gift preparing movies. You have no idea. It's torture, John Paul. I'm sorry, John Paul. So let's take us back. Take us back.
Yeah,
I'll take you back.
Rein us
So
in.
let's go back to the, like you said, the opening of that show. I mean, it starts off and you're just like, what is going on here? It's just absolutely bonkers. But after rewatching it the second time, I realized it's not bonkers. It's a preview of what's to come.
Yes.
And it does it in such an interesting way that that watching it the second time, you're like, oh my gosh, this ties into this episode and this ties into this episode. And it does it so, I'd say masterfully. Like, it's so perfect. I mean, again, I don't believe the show was perfect.
No.
I do really, really enjoy this show.
The first episode was one of the best episodes, though. Like
I
the
agree.
opening, like that was one of the. I was hook, line, sinker in after that first episode. Sure.
In terms of a show bringing you on to go, hey, you're gonna really like this show. Let me just throw this at you. And John, like you said, it grabs everybody because it gives people like the horror fans, the sci-fi fans, the different genre, the love story, the comedy, the musical. I mean, let's get into this a bit. The music in this show is great, with one exception, and this is just because I have a minor pet peeve when it comes to you're having a period piece, and then you throw modern music.
I love that.
See, I like that.
I love
too.
that.
I used to love that.
I love it.
I'm not gonna lie. I used to love that as a kid, and as I grew older, I don't know. It kind of takes me out of it a little. And
I mean, I'm okay with it because we're talking about sci-fi and it's not like a true period piece.
Right. And I
if I was watching, Pride and Prejudice, all right, and then like they came with some Kendrick Lamar, I would be like, what the fuck am I watching? But like this was a lot spicier.
Wow.
And like
I'm just imagining that.
I mean, but seriously, like
So
think about
awesome.
it. Because like that's when I think about like a true period piece. Like I'm usually thinking about
You're thinking like English.
Accents, lots of production value, once again, petticoats, wigs, all this kind of stuff. And then if I hear some modern music in there, it's gonna really, really throw it off, but
Except the nightstand.
I mean, but that was the whole point of that movie, wasn't it the whole point of that movie?
It was
it's funny you say that, John. That's when I started to hate that. Because I'm a huge Queen fan. I'm a huge Queen fan, and it really got me angry that they did that. But let me just get sidetracked on that. I'll give you another example that it kind of threw me out of it. A movie like Django, which is a great movie in its own right. But then they throw that scene with modern music.
I liked it.
And Tarantino also did that with oh my gosh, I can't think of it. Inglourious Bastards. Again, I didn't
like it there.
I love David Bowie, but it doesn't fit.
I guess it's like the emotional response that it invokes. You know what I mean? Like when I hear the modern music, like if it hits me in a certain way and it invokes a certain emotional response, then I'm either gonna like it or not. Like the Bowie in Glorious Bastards.
I don't remember. I only watched that once. I don't remember.
I do remember that. Like
they did
Cat
People. The song Cat People, putting out the fire with gasoline. I mean, yes,
is that when she's burning the theater?
Yeah, yes, it's fitting when you're seeing the scene, but again, it kind of takes you out of that moment, and that's why, because I like the thing I loved about this show, really, like I said, was the music itself. These women have such beautiful voices, aside from being, yes, very attractive. I mean, the little me going, wow, Smollett is very attractive, and she's singing again, because Birds of Prey, again, she was in that, sings beautifully.
Oh, yes, she was.
Mhm.
Yeah, she was also in the Cosby Show when that's where I really
She
remember
did,
her.
yeah,
Yeah.
she
She was
was
Rudy's best friend.
House. Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember her on Full House and
Yeah,
stuff.
she
Like,
was Rudy's best friend in
Yeah.
the Cosby Show. That shows you how old I am.
Oh yeah.
No, I grew up with the
We're
Cosby Show.
there.
Yeah, we're
We're in the
here.
realm.
We're here
Yeah.
for it.
But again, the way this just smacks you in the face right away, and you're just like, what just happened, and what did I just watch in that very first episode? Is so killer. And then yes, it builds off of it. And yes, there are some lulls in some episodes that we can get into.
I'm just
Um,
glad that you did talk about the music very briefly anyway.
Yeah, I love
because
music.
the music producer on this show was actually Raphael Sadiq. And Raphael Sadiq he's like the main singer in Tony, Tony, Tony. Remember Tony, Tony,
Yes, of
Tony from
course.
the 90s? Okay,
Oh,
so yeah, that's
okay.
Raphael Sadiq. All right. And he's gone on to have a pretty decent solo career, but he's like a music producer extraordinaire. And he's done quite a few soundtracks for movies, like as he's gotten older. And he was the music producer here on this show.
Awesome.
Wow.
He has exquisite taste.
Then
Raphael
I
Sadiq.
need to tweet him and thank him for the music they played during the Flopsy and Bopsy scenes, because holy shit was that scary.
And those actresses
Holy shit, it was
that were
so
Flopsy
unsettling.
Bopsy, oh my God, they were, their movement was so fucking creepy that it was
Chilling.
Another amazing
Astounding.
performance.
Oh, God, yeah.
Another example of amazing performance. They didn't have to say a word. They didn't even make a sound.
no.
They just were there.
No, but if
had
they would
crazy
have.
Joker, like Heath Ledger, Fright Night 1 smiles, right? Like, and the hair, the outfit,
Oh, yeah.
like holy crap, those kids were creepy. as
So
hell.
my white friends here, like, do you guys realize that like the Flopsy and Bopsy twins, those are the Pickaninny twins?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yes.
Extremely
I
racist
didn't-
and negative.
Yes, extremely.
I mean,
no,
if a racist white
that
cop is going to
that came
curse
from
you.
Uncle Tom's Cabin. In
No,
the
no,
show.
no, no, no. The Pickaninny
That's
twins
from
is
the cover.
no, the Pickaninny twins is Lucy Fitch Perkins is the author, and it's a real book called The Pickaninny Twins.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a character in Uncle Tom's Cabin because
No.
they showed the book after Dee like saw them the first time and freaked out, and it like changed into the mean face too, I think at the time. So I thought it came from that.
Yeah, those are the Pickaninny twins.
Oh,
And like there was a lot of around Halloween time, at least on my Twitter feed, I saw lots of people dressing up as the Pickaninny twins, and it was Flopsy and Bopsy version though, but
still,
a lot of blowback, from the Black community, like, y'all really dressing up as Pickaninnies for Halloween, like this is what's going on. But like to me, I felt like it was much more of like a current cultural reference instead of just like going full Pickaninny for Halloween.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit different,
real easily that's
right,
not
right,
appropriate.
like right. Like it's not appropriate. Like even though like it's relevant, but like it is relevant right to the times right now. Like to be on some Pickaninny shit because like that's what it was. Like and I could tell that like you didn't know, so I wanted to bring that up.
so that yeah.
Yeah.
I just took it for granted in the show. As it was presented
Those
to
are
me.
the
That's
Pickaninny
what
twins.
okay.
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
All right, yeah, I've heard
And
that
extra
term.
scary, and it makes it extra scary. You know what I mean? Like to put those characters and make them the way that they were. Like it made it extra scary. Like so many just like Black cultural things like just made things extra scary. Like the I think it's like the third episode where they go to that house, that doctor's house. All right, and then like those ghosts come at the end in the circle.
Oh, that's Letty's house.
Yeah, it's Letty's. Like
Yeah,
after
the
she
house
buys
she
that
buys.
big Victorian house, and like and that the old owner was like the doctor, and he was performing all those experiments and stuff.
Was it Hiram?
on
Was
those
that his
people.
Hiram
Was he the
Epstein?
Hiram?
Does that sound right? Epstein?
Hiram I know his last name was
Epstein. Epstein is definitely right.
That,
but, like,
his last name was
It's
definitely
definitely Hiram
Epstein.
Epstein then.
It was
I'm not
Hiram.
sure about the. So.
I just looked it up. You guys are right.
oh yeah,
Oh,
Epstein was
okay.
definitely right. And like, I mean, like this is like, it just kind of like harkens back to like the Black community doesn't really trust a lot of like medical science like as it is right now, because like we've been used in experimentation like from jump, like from slavery till like extremely recently, like that. So we don't really trust like the medical community like for a very, very good reason. And like when that occurred and like you saw like what he was doing to those bodies and like different kinds of surgery and putting different parts on people and all that experimentation and stuff, like it gives it like a deeper level of evil and scariness. You know,
Except
at least for me, it did. I was just like, this.
Yeah, well, you know what? To jump on
Like,
that,
except
what I
that baby
thought
on the
was weird-
basketball.
That was wild
terrifying
shit.
and weird. But you know what I thought was odd about it is, you know, and maybe I'm being weird, but Hiram Epstein sounds very much like a Jewish name to me. And all I could think of is how oddly weird to have a Jewish doctor performing experiments on another minority group. Because, you know, when you think about World War II and the Nazi camps, that's what they did with the people in the concentration camps, other than just execute them and starve them. They performed medical experiments on them. So it was just like this
white and racist.
atrocities committed upon them. And then this guy's
right. When he talked about like Farrakhan hating Jews and stuff, and he was like black people don't hate Jews. Like, we don't got time to be segmenting white people into different little segments. Like, we don't got time for that stuff. Like, you're just white. Like, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or not. And like, here is a good example of that coming to life. You know what I mean? Like, because it does sound like a Jewish name, but like, I mean, you just white. Like, that's just what it is.
You were white.
No, I mean, it's not that. It's just, it was weird to me that, you know, and it just kind of highlights the point where you have like, here's a group that has experienced atrocities on their own, and then they go commit atrocities.
Right.
Yeah. What the fuck is wrong with you? Think. You know?
Right. I mean, but like, that's just, once again, whiteness in action. Like, that's a piece of it. Like, it doesn't really matter that like a genocide has happened to like that particular segment of white people. It's just watching whiteness work its action right there in like real time, all the time.
I don't want to take away from that because I'm not. But also it just seems like just atrocity upon atrocity regardless. I mean, you have like Montrose, who was beat up by his father, so then he beats his kid, you know, and then you have you know what happened to the black people in Tulsa and stuff, and then you see him slit an indigenous woman's throat, you know what I mean? So you just see all these examples of just compiling violence on top of violence where
I felt like the underlining like meaning of this show was just monsters versus monsters of different kinds, you know, monsters versus monsters. Like, that was the whole premise of the show, you know, like, and you can defeat the monster, the ghoul type of monsters with, you know, intelligence and research and magic. But that other monster, there just was no conflict resolution with it at all. Like, there was just none with it, and there still isn't to this day, because it was monsters versus monsters, but the monster still won.
You bring up a great point by saying that. I was going to say, especially the way they showed, you know, the cops in this, and what pieces of shit they really are.
Hey.
Yeah, dude, those cops pissed me off so much. Like, they played their parts well, man. Those guys.
Did. They really did.
What good actors? I can say that.
Yeah.
I'll give a positive note about those dudes for sure. Like, they acted their asses off because they definitely made you hate them and invoked that hatred response, which I think was the intent.
Right.
But what dickheads those guys were.
The scene with Diana when they go after Dee and she says, "I can't breathe." I mean,
oh my God, that was so fucked up.
Yeah.
Just I mean, well, I mean, just
lots of
white cops going after
current situations. Even though we're looking at the Jim Crow South, you know, lots of things that you see happening currently, still happening.
That wasn't even the South. That was Chicago.
That was Chicago.
That's right. That was Chicago. But like, I mean, we're Jim Crow times. Like, but like, still getting you to invoke that same response. You know, making you open your eyes a little bit more to like current events. You know, like I feel like they did a little good job and making people kind of take a different look with new, fresh eyes on past and current events and how they correlate.
It was like a good time for this show to come out.
It was. Yeah.
It was like, it's a super relevant show. It's like a nonfiction history lesson.
Yeah.
You know,
like, I wonder why people are mad. You know,
and they're still mad. I wonder why. I have a question for you guys though. So Tick's dad, you know, who was Michael K. Williams, like from The Wire, which I never saw. All right, we'll talk about that later. But I never.
It's okay.
I haven't seen The Wire either. I'm sorry.
I've seen half of it.
I saw. All right, thank you. You guys are my peoples then. All right, good. All right, like, but you know, Michael K. Williams. So when he was outed in the show, did you guys expect that? Did you see it coming? Did you think that maybe his character was gay before he was like currently like outed on the show? Did you suspect it?
I did, only because the prior scenes when he was going to go talk to that bartender. And
when Tree sent him out in the bartender was-
Prior to the clues, did you suspect it?
So I did not suspect
really.
it. Even with the
I was just
scene
like,
with
no.
the bartender, I didn't suspect, but because of the scene with the bartender, I wasn't like, where did that come from? If that makes any
So
sense. You know?
I kind of got not that like I got clued in or any way because of like little clues. Like it was literally like Michael K. Williams' performance that made me think, I think that he might be a gay man. And then when the bartender scene happened, I was like, for sure. And
Really?
then yeah. Like
did you think he was overdoing it?
No,
like being over hard type
no,
deal?
that's the thing. Like I just kind of picked up on it a little bit. And whenever the bartender scene happened, I was like, I think I'm right. And then it happened. I was like, I was right. But like, I feel that it was, that is just a big thumbs up to Michael K. Williams's performance. Like, I just felt like he really killed it. Like I didn't see The Wire, so I hear that he was fabulous in it, but like, I really loved him in this show. Like he murdered it. Like, and you know, that's just like another, you know, marginalized group that got some shine in this show, you know, like being gay and during back then in the 50s and 60s, like whenever this took place. I feel like it kind of like crossed a couple of decades, you know, but like that was another like highlight to a marginalized group that I felt that they did like a really, really good job on and giving it some shine during those particular times. And I thought that Michael K. Williams murdered it.
Oh yeah, he played his part so good.
Oh god.
Especially when in the, what was it called? It was one of the last episodes where they go back to 1921.
1921 Rewind or Rewind 1921. I think it's
Rewind,
like that.
there it is. Rewind 1921. To see the extent of Montrose's torture, of how of him knowing he was gay all his life, but you know, getting beat up on his dad. He's like, well, you want to dance around in front of the mirror with a flower in your hair? Not in my house, you know, like what that dude went through. I feel like, Jesus Christ, no wonder he was so mean, you know. And then he saw his, like, if you want to call it boyfriend, his best friend. They held hands at the statue when the riots like started, remember? And then he had his friend's brains all over him. They blew him away as he was holding his hand. Like, and then you see the
instances of like the trauma. You see the trauma
going in
happen
between Montrose and young Montrose, because that's what I wrote in my notes. It's like Montrose, young Montrose, Montrose, young Montrose, you know, old Montrose. And then like I understood so much more on the friggin' second time through.
Yeah, anybody should watch it at least twice.
Yeah, especially like if you can binge it, do it, because it all week to week. Holy crap! I forgot half of what.
Yeah, like what does this mean?
So much happened
because it has all the things. Like everybody that's watching, like our cast right now, like has to once again understand that this show has all the things. Like there's a lot of plot, and it's all very layered, and it's just a lot to digest from week to week. That if you have the stamina to binge it all at once, like you'll understand everything a lot better than doing the whole week to week thing, or at least like digest it in like really large segments.
Right. And like in doing this, with bringing up the whole gay thing in the first episode, that dude with the mustache they showed a few times, like they gave him a ride and stuff. He's like, oh yeah, me and Tig used to, what was his name?
Tree.
That
was his nickname. I don't remember the character.
That was his nickname,
yeah, that Tree. So Tig's looking for clues for his dad right before he sees the bartender getting blown in the alley. You know, sorry, but that's what was happening.
Don't be sorry.
Sorry to be uncouth about it.
We don't censor our show.
Right. You know, sorry. Tree said something on the low about Sammy. That was the bartender. Sammy's the bartender. He said, why don't you go ask Sammy? And then the first time I was like, oh, he knew what was happening, so he messed with him to get him out there. But then it was like sort of a double meaning. Yeah. It's like, hey, why don't you go ask Sammy what's happening?
I think that was asked him where where Sam was.
The situation. Oh, Maybe that was it. Oh
No, but in
I'm gonna
the
watch it
museum,
again.
in Charlene's least favorite episode of the Indiana Jones one, in the museum, he says, "I thought
It
you
wasn't
want
as
to
bad
know
as the
because of
second
your
time.
dad." Like, when Chick's like, "Why did you send me out there?" And he's like, "That's Sam's business." He's like, "Well, it might be your business too." And
Right.
Chick's like, "Hey, I'm not gay."
Oh,
He's like, "Yeah, but maybe your dad."
I'm okay. I
You're
misremembered.
blending them.
Yes,
That's
I
a
am
nice sign,
blending.
is it
I am
blending?
blending the two. And then the other thing I picked up on, only because I watched it the second time, is after spoilers, they do the portal, right? Hippolyta gets sucked in, right? And then Tig gets sucked in, and then he's right back out holding the book. And it's a real quick detail that I totally missed. He says that a woman with a mechanical arm gave him that book. That's D.
That is
Like,
D.
I didn't
I
pick
mean,
that
yeah.
up. That's like
has to be.
future
I mean, it
D.
doesn't have to
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
It makes sense that it would be her
So-
after the end.
But that's the only thing I can, because she's the only one with a mechanical
Yeah.
arm,
It
you know,
definitely,
looking
it definitely was her.
like Furiosa.
Yeah. So,
I
so
was like, that has to be it. That was like, that's D 100%.
Yeah,
There's
it
no
definitely was
other
her.
way. No other way. As the
You know,
only
I
cop
thought-
that-
all right, John.
Oh, go ahead,
John,
John.
I was gonna say, John. Let's go back to that in a second. Let's go back to a point. Let's talk about some negatives in this show.
Before we
Okay.
jump there, John Paul, I just wanted to
Yeah.
say one thing about episode 1 that I really, really liked. Like, as you pointed out in that montage at the beginning, there's like hints about everything that's going to happen in the series,
Mhm.
but also in the conversation between him and his companion that they both have to walk the rest of the way to Chicago because of racism and assholes. Where she asked him about what book he was reading, and he talks about reading The Princess of Mars, and that it mentions the fact that the main character was an ex-Confederate, officer, and she was like, "You don't get to be X about that. You fought for
Right.
slavery." And I just
Mhm.
thought that kind of set the theme, because one overriding thing you see through the whole thing with almost all the characters is redemption possible when you're a monster? You know what I mean? Like, when you've done bad, who is able to be redeemed and who isn't? And you just see that
Yeah,
theme with
sure.
all those characters. Like, you got Montrose, you got Tick from the stuff he did, you got Letty for the way she treated her sister, like all of them, there's things that they have done that, accountable for. White people, we don't need to
Yeah.
nothing about that's redeemable. But I mean, it was an interesting theme. Like, you even have Hippolyta, who like abandons her daughter for how long? He considers doing it forever. When is it redeemable? Is it redeemable? Are you redeemable? And I just thought that was really interesting. And so I'll let it go. And John Paul, you can go jump where you were going with the negatives.
So I just so we get all sides of this show. So let's go into some negatives. I mean, definitely, I know somebody's going to say the Indiana Jones episode. So,
I thought it was better the second time,
So-
but still bad,
so-
but better.
let's go
I mean,
into
like,
your gripes
I
of
get
that
it was
episode.
supposed to be like an homage to that show, but I mean, some things were just too on the nose for me to be an homage. Like the way that the bridge occurred, just the whole general like finding of what they were looking for, like the treasure hunting kind of like theme of that episode.
And that's what they were going for on the podcast.
That's what you told me, is that like they were totally going for it, but like there's a difference between like going for it and like hitting it on the nose. And to me, it was a too much on the nose. Like I just felt like it was a cheap out. And that was like the worst of the season for me. Like, and it could have just been circumstantial. I had a bad day that day. It was my birthday. Everything went wrong. And then and then when I watched it, it was just a whack episode, and I felt like I shaved my balls for this, like after like we watched it, and like but that was just too on the nose. And the acting, I felt like, was also the lowest point in the series. Like, not only was it on the nose with the Indiana Jones theme, but the acting was so melodramatic. And like that was Michael K. Williams for me, like in that episode. Like, he was a little too Young and the Restless for me, like in his panic moments, and the way that he yelled, like just too melodramatic, like just not for me. Like I literally felt like, am I going to continue watching this shit? Like after that episode, I was so let down by it. You got a whole bunch of notes on it, like
Yeah.
I'll give you why I didn't like that episode. My problem with that episode was the fact that it was kind of a disjointed part of the show. You have this great linear story, and then you have this side quest. Which
That was definitely a side quest.
It was literally a side quest.
You got 50 coins for that side quest.
Yeah, side quest.
And
And
like
like
the whole
side quest.
multi-dimensional time machine was also a side quest. I mean, it ends up coming in later, but
you can feel the side quest happening, you know, like, oh, like especially like The Witcher. I feel like The Witcher is a really good example of like linear storyline.
So
all right, but like so many side quests happening with The Witcher. I feel you, John Paul. I feel you.
I hate that show.
But like I feel you on that. But like at least like I could pick up like, oh, side quest. This is where the side quest would have to be happening. Like if I was playing this as a game. And like since like I didn't get that video game kind of like linear story with this, like this did seem really, really out of place. And like when you said side quest, like that totally just hits it.
That's what it felt like. That's what it felt like to me, because everything is like you're like totally into this show. Especially like I said, I didn't binge it like one day. I just, watched it in chunks with my wife the first go around. And so that episode was just like, we're sitting there and I'm like, this is getting boring. This show's not.
We watched it on vacation.
Yeah, but on vacation on my birthday, and it was boring.
and I'm thinking this show should not be boring. It should be exciting. And I'm like, and then like when exactly how you thought it was going to happens, you're just kind of like, really, this is way too predictable. This is not. And then I was just almost like, do I want to continue this show?
Yes. No, I really felt like it was a jumping shark moment. Like that was a jump the shark moment. Like it was very side questy. Did I shave my balls for this? Like all of that stuff. Like it was just terrible. And like and so predictable. Like as it unfolded, like you see exactly what was going to happen. But I held hope like right until the very end, and then it just did it the way that you thought it was going to do.
Exactly.
Like it was. Yeah, that was, and it put a bad taste in my mouth. And I was also of the mindset, like, do I want to keep going? And like, we jumped through hoops to watch that episode.
Oh my God.
We were on vacation. We didn't have any working HBO. Like we had to go and buy a Chrome stick at the goddamn store and hook it up to like 1,000 different TVs and shit to make sure that shit happened. And finally when it did, it was, I shaved my balls for this bullshit Indiana Jones bullshit. Like, I cannot believe this.
Like we had a projector. We had like a media room with a projector and shit. Bulb wasn't working, right? Tried to hook it up to the TV upstairs.
Like the main like living area, you couldn't get behind it to hook the shit up. Like
our one friend that was staying there with us, we grabbed their TV off their nightstand, put it on the fucking coffee table, and watched it.
When they came out of that bedroom with the whole TV, like carrying it out, like it was just wild to see, and they just put it right on
this nice house.
Yeah, put it right on the coffee table. So we can watch it. And then it was some bullshit Indiana Jones stuff. Like I just could not. It was a very bad taste in my mouth, and I felt like
I'm gonna get drunk.
Yeah, let's just get drunk. And like, did my favorite show jump the shark? Like that right at that moment, this was probably like my favorite show that was on TV that had happened like of the year in 2020, aside from the Boys, the newest season of The Boys. That one kicked ass. And then, but aside from that, this was probably my favorite show at the time. But like that was a jump the shark moment, like that particular episode. Like it was just so predictable, and then all of that melodrama, like screaming, and it was terrible. Terrible. It was terrible.
They were like, "Listen, we just watched National Treasure for the first time, and we got to do this."
Oh my god! Like one thing that Jenny said though, like when she was talking about like like all of these monsters. Can they be redeemed? Like is there redemption for like all of these monsters? Like except for the white people, blah blah blah. But like there was like a little redeeming moment for Christina, and like to me, Christina was like one of my least favorite actresses in the show. And I don't know if it was because she was supposed to be so cold because of the magic and stuff like that. Yeah. But like, I think but like it didn't come across as purposely cold. It came across as I don't have the acting ability to give you the range that it gives you cold, that interprets cold on screen. Like it was just like bad acting. A lot of the times that she spoke, I just felt like, but like on the redeeming thing, whenever she like made those guys kill her, like in the same way that Emmett Till was killed, that was as
a
close
performative
to,
gesture.
It was, but like for me, that was like as close to white redemption as they got on the show. Like that was the closest that they got to it, you know, like, and it was like a gesture, and that's really it, because nothing really came of it. Like it was.
She did it for Ruby.
She did do it for Ruby.
Yeah,
a gesture for Ruby. Like it was literally for Ruby, but it was
Ruby,
only
it
a
was
gesture.
really silly in my opinion, because it was like, one, I'm sure she didn't tell Ruby she did it. Like it was just
she
like
didn't, but it was
just.
I get why she did
I do too, but it was because
let me show you that I could do this.
It was I didn't think that. It was just like, well, like you told me, like, I don't know what it's like. I'm gonna see what it's like,
right?
You know, like,
but she couldn't, you know what I mean? Like it's like, you know, like no white person could really understand what it's like to be a black
like
person.
it was a very surfacey kind of gesture to go through, like the physical,
right?
I mean, unless she was really willing to die,
right, and like it's not like she wasn't gonna fucking come back either, you know what I mean? But like, but like all that was a gesture. But for me, that is as close as it got. Not that it even was redemption, but like that's as close as it got. But Christina's performance as Abby Lee Kershaw, like she was like another like kind of like negative to me, like in the show. Stunningly gorgeous to look at, you know, like beautiful to behold, to look at, like what a modelly looking bitch. But like I just didn't really think that her acting chops, when she was around all of those other actors, it made her look worse, because everybody else to me was like so good that it's like, not like, you know, like when you're an ugly bitch and you're around a bunch of hot bitches, you don't look hotter in comparison. You look uglier. All right. Like it makes it look worse. And that's how she looked to me. But I felt like everybody else
stood out, like
she stood out, and not in a good way, because everybody else's performance were so fucking rad. And like she was just kind of okay. I wish I could have saw somebody give me a little more depth, because like her
things about that. I mean, like, so one, I don't know what she acted in or didn't act. So this is my only experience that I recall her acting in.
She was a pretty face in your movie, and she was in Fury Road. Yeah, she was in Fury Road, and she didn't really have to like talk much in that. She just had to like stand around and look gorgeous.
But she was like a little.
I mean, so my point on that is just like, so I don't have a lot of comparison to know if she's better actress or worse actress. But the only thing I can say about it is like that character doesn't have a lot of range anyway.
I know.
So there isn't much she could do with it, and I don't.
Like that means that like
I didn't think she stood out either, but I thought
really prime actor to hold a candle to the performances that were going on around her. To me, it made her.
And they'd have to have the character would have to have that ability to have something.
Yes.
I thought where she did well is where she pulled off, which maybe it wasn't acting in her part. I don't know. She pulled off the I have innate, privilege, and I know it very well. Like that.
I mean,
she did,
when she's zooming in her family.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Pushes takes gun away and is
I
like.
feel like she didn't have.
Yeah, she may not have had to act
either, but she did that well, and then probably because she connected to it. Like whenever you can connect to a character or a specific part that's happening, like, I mean, you're going to be able to see that it shines through in your performance, and like in that moment. She shined through. Like there she was.
Outside of that,
right. So you're gonna have to be like a really dope ass actor to give me cold when there's not a lot of range to even give in your performance, and it's supposed to be like that. Like that's intentional, but like she didn't. I don't think that she rose to the occasion really in many spots. Like she was the worst for me, performance wise, like out of the whole crew.
Now I'm gonna play devil's advocate right now. Only because while I was researching us doing this show, I watched an interview with her, and they flat out asked her, they're like, compared to everybody else, why was your acting so cold and so, the interview said bland. And she said, that's how I was directed to do this part. I was directed to let everybody else shine while I am the bland person in the room. And she almost let slip, I'm the white person in the room.
Exactly.
Which was kind of funny.
That's what they were going for.
So I think it was not only just an artistic choice, I think it was a personal choice. They wanted
choices were definitely made. Like you could
Yeah.
tell that choices were definitely made, like for
because
sure.
see, I do have experience with her from another movie, The Neon Demon.
Oh, I
She
like
was-
that
Oh,
movie.
she was in that too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the one that lived basically at the end. She was
Oh, the one
like-
that ate the other ones,
Yeah.
vomited up
exactly.
eyeballs and
Yes,
stuff.
she lived.
I really
The
hated
Neon
that movie,
Demon
by the way.
was-
So
Oh, you
It's a
did?
fucked up movie.
It was awful.
Yeah, I thought
you could tell men
that
wrote
was,
that woman
yeah.
or wrote that movie. It was just like
I thought it was like really pretty to look at, and it was a cool story. But I liked
not
her
a cool
acting.
story.
in
I
that,
give you
and
it was
she
kind of pretty.
so then, like, I
thought
guess
she
my
was
problem
cool as
is then,
shit.
like, with the direction. You know what I'm saying? Like, then I mean, it sounds like she followed her directions, like what the director wanted her to
That's
do,
what,
and like
yeah, that's what they wanted her
that's
to
dope.
do.
Then, like, the choices of the director, then I guess I have a problem with how they thought that was going to read, because it didn't read like just your standard pedestal innate whiteness shining through. It read that you're not giving me the exact emotives that I need for these scenes. Like the privilege only shone through a couple of times, and I think that was something they were probably going for the entire time, and I didn't get that. Like I just didn't get that. I didn't feel that it was sincere when she was into Ruby, you know, and I think it was supposed to be sincere, but like I didn't get that. Like,
thought it
Well, see, I
was.
kind of thought it was supposed to be like it was. Like, yeah, she cared about Ruby, but in the end, despite the fact that she was saying there's no generational hate or racism or stuff, she's
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
you're I am not a racist, but I have
for sure, for sure,
you know,
for sure.
and so I kind of thought that that's what it was. Well, yeah, she cared about
Well,
Ruby, but
and
in
then
the
on the
end,
other side of the coin, like
She
her,
still killed
like anybody
the
else.
man counterpart that was like her lover or person that whoever that dude that she was keeping alive, that she would be William.
yeah.
He did a very fine job. All right.
He was really good.
And just being cold and letting that whiteness kind of rise above everything else. And this is why I'm better. This whiteness thing that I got going on here.
Okay.
He did such a better job at that same thing than she did. And I'm sure
I get
that they
it
were
now.
going for the same exact thing, because they were the same person. You know, like she was
Right.
He was acting as him, but he just executed it so much better than she did. And like if the director liked his choices and liked her choices, then I'm still going to go back to the actress needed to give me a little bit more, but I will fall on the director, especially because that's the way that she was directed to do so. I just felt that it came across so much better when it was William versus her, even though they're the same person. He did a much better job.
You know,
Yeah.
you're right. But when I think about that, though, I wonder if it was supposed to be because in the mask of a man, she felt more comfortable.
You know, I didn't think about that.
Because that she wasn't
I don't
allowed
know if
to
that's
be
good.
married
It's
since she
a
wasn't
because
possibility.
there was this, you know, like this feminist thing that was going on with her as well. You know, like you remember
I'm gonna take
gonna be
over.
I'm
I'm gonna
a
be the
woman is
one.
not supposed to be the
Yes.
one to run this magic shit, but it's gonna be a woman today, bitches. Blah blah blah. You know, like so, like there was that feminist
Yeah.
underturn to like her character. So like maybe that was a little bit of an underlying aspect. If it was though, like I
have no idea.
It didn't hit me. It didn't hit me. I mean, like maybe if they came back on the flip side and explained that, I'd be like, oh, okay, all right, bitch, then
See,
it makes all right sense. But
I
like,
felt like she acted like she had a chip on her shoulder. That's why she was dark and cold and brooding. That's how I felt her.
I
I
felt
thought she was
I
dark
felt
and
that she
brooding.
had
and
that
she-
chip on her
issues for
shoulder.
She is.
Sure.
is.
I felt the
Well,
chip on her shoulder when she talked about that woman stuff for sure.
Yeah, like
That's when it felt chippy. You know, everything else was just like
no,
eh.
everything else felt chippy to me because she hated her dad.
She did.
Oh yeah,
She
she had
hated
that.
that.
She had the
That
daddy
whole
issues.
thing, yeah, like and with good reason. She was a woman born into
A group of
a
men that
literal man's world that they probably
literally had an
didn't-
order of magic based on the fact that women fucked everything up. Is basically what their bylaws read.
Well, that's how they interpreted the Bible, because that's that's why they wanted that poem. That's how they thought incorporating that poem would work. You know, the Adam named Eve fucked and other stuff. They're like, listen, you know, it'd be sweet. Pressing buttons to that shit. Press it in order, and then you get in or you drown.
I like that Sons of Adam kind of like aspect too.
Yeah,
the
that
story.
was that whole aspect was
that's
super cool.
Yeah, and like to me, like that just like calls into like counterculture kind of conspiracy theory stuff, like how I think about like, and I mean, and like I don't know if everybody thinks about it like in the terms of blackness like I do, but I think about like secret white societies being shady as fuck. All right, like Skull and Bones, you know, shit and stuff like that. And I think that there might even be like a couple of like Skull and Bones tie-ins, like with the Sons of Adam like storyline, like a little bit, and like some like pre-Ku Klux Klan shit, like and stuff, like with that same Sons of Adam's like tie-in and stuff. But like I was just like, well, this is conspiracy theory bullshit, and I thought that was like really
is that a real thing? The Sons of Adam?
No.
I mean, it sounds like it would.
I mean, that's what it was in the show. That's what it was in the show.
Maybe it's like the Masons.
The Illuminati.
I mean, like, but the Illuminati is like fake.
Yeah,
but you know, like the Masons, like
ballpark.
that shit is real. You know what I'm saying? Like Skull and Bones, like that shit is real. You know, like real secret society bullshit that is like scary, that might have some magic bullshit.
The Stonecutters.
And then like the Stonecutters, and, like that all got tie-ins with the Klan. At least like that's how I think about it. I think about any secret white society got tie-ins with the Klan. All right, I don't care if it's like if it's black shit or not, but like that's how I think, and I'm sure that like
there's one racist in there.
And there's probably all racist in there. Okay, now and down to modern day QAnon bullshit, all racist in there.
All racist.
You know, that reminds me of the thing that I really like.
All of it.
Sorry, was like in the beginning where like when they run into the lodge and all that, and Tick's like, I guess the KKK, when they said Grand Wizard, they really meant Grand Wizard. And Christina goes, no, we've got nothing to do with Klan. They're poor.
It's not the
like
racism.
The whole thing where you have all like
it's not the white supremacy that they're not down
Trump
with,
and knowing that Trump is like fuck you people.
It's being an elitist.
Poor people.
It's being an elitist.
They're not allowed in the order.
They're poor. Like we ain't fucking with them. They're poor. I forgot about that. See,
I did too until you brought it up, and I was like, oh, I wanted to mention that because I was just like everybody else knows this except for the poor white people are like, no, that's not like
they're poor.
So it's all okay. Rich people
John
like
Paul, you started talking about this damn Indiana Jones episode that was whack. What else did you think was whack though?
I mean, even though I do like the actress, but little foxtail episode, which was another weird.
I love that episode.
I don't know.
Here's why I loved it. So you know.
I'll tell you why it bothered me. Like again, I do like that actress. What's her name?
That's Jamie Chung.
Jamie Chung. Yeah, I mean, I remember her from the Real World, which is
me too.
I mean, I didn't even know that she could act like that. I thought that her performance was stellar, but just the storyline was a little out of place. Like just a little bit, like just a little out of place.
I felt like that episode could have been told in a different way, just because I don't know that whole like, here's the sacrifice, you have to bring all these men and all that whole thing was just so, I don't know.
That was the price of summoning. That was the price of summoning the, what was it? The Kumiho, I think is what they called it.
The nine-tailed fox demon.
Yeah. That was the price. Like, cause
I mean,
that dude was basically molesting
and then
her.
like up until the end, like I really felt like there was no need for her character
exactly
at all, like, up until the end.
Exactly.
And then like they only like made that whole episode to tie in to the end. I
agree with you.
And
that was
like
my problem with that
enough.
episode.
Yeah, and then like whenever they had that episode and it occurred, and then like she came back into Tick's life, and then like abruptly like they had a big falling out like at that table, and then like her and Tick and Letty, like they all like, you know, had a big argument, and then she left, and like I felt like,
oh, by the way, we're cool.
And I felt like everything was unresolved, and then like she's in a corner like going with them and like singing songs and shit, like she's a part of their family and stuff, and I was just like,
they made up real quickly.
This is whack as fuck.
Exactly. It was another episode that felt out of place.
That the episode, like, it was like weird that they had it, but what I loved about it is like, here you have a love interest, right? And almost anytime you have a love interest where they tell the story of the love, it's always from the dude's perspective in these types of things, you know? And I really loved that instead the whole love interest story was told from this minor character's perspective instead of focusing on Tick. it ended up being her story instead of Tick's story, and I really love that part about it.
I did like that.
That is
even
a
though
good point,
it did
Jenny.
make it,
I like that.
It made it feel more shoehorned in though, because of the perspective change in the way that they told the story, and it takes away from that actual episode, because when you watch it like as a standalone, it is gorgeously shot. Jamie Chung is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, she's
her
insane.
makeup is banging. The way she looks in those period clothes, fucking so solid. Her performance is like magical. Like the scenery, the ugliness of fucking war. Like that episode is actually a banger when you watch it as a standalone. It's gorgeously shot, but it's just so weird in the way that it's placed in the story that it makes you feel like, what the fuck, you know? Like, and that's a bummer, because it's as a standalone, it's a really, really dope episode. Like the story of their love is really cool. What happens with it in the end, like with her basically being a fucking monster. Spoiler alert, everybody's a fucking monster in some way, like in the show. Spoiler alert. But like when you watch it just by itself, and if you just like segmented it from the entire series, it's a gorgeous episode, which is kind of a bummer the way that they shoehorned it in the linear way that they told the story. I kind of felt like that this show should have been like 2 episodes longer. And then like some things would have made a little bit more sense in the way that they told the story from beginning to end. That was one of the storylines that felt rushed and like jammed in there to make sense at the very like final, you know, climactic ending that it had, which was a bummer. If we had 2 more episodes, then I think that it would have
for some reason I had it in my mind that it was supposed to originally be 13 episodes, but I might be completely wrong about that. I don't know why I have that in my brain. But also, so the thing that bothered me about it is she's supposed to be a fox demon, and those tails look nothing like fucking tails. They look like spider legs, and that bothered me. I don't know why, but that's where I
definitely looked like
they look like furry tentacles.
Yeah, they definitely looked like some
not
kind
tails.
of bug.
Certainly
yeah,
not
like
a foxtail.
Like not a foxtail and not like an animal tail either. Like definitely insect. Like I got an insect vibe, and then like when they kept saying that foxtail thing, I didn't even get it. Like I still couldn't even like put it together in my mind that they were talking about that bitch with the fucking spider legs coming out of her mouth. I was like, oh wait, like these spider legs are foxtails, and I was like, this is fucked up. Like,
it's like I guess they wanted to make it more horrifying, and I don't know how you could do that with tails, but I just was like, that's not.
Like there could have been a way to animate it, I guess, like to make it.
I mean, if Mario Brothers can do it,
but like.
What?
I said if Mario Brothers can have a tail.
Yeah, it was just weird. But so and they did have a scene, you know, before they jumped in the car where Chick goes and apologizes profusely. And I guess you're supposed to just go with the fact that there's a girl in love. So when her love finally says, I need you there, you know what I mean?
I hated that quick wrap up bullshit. Like I don't like this wrap it up B kind of thing when you're telling such a deep, multi-layered, multifaceted story like this was.
That was almost this. That almost should have been like a season in itself.
An episode,
like in Korea.
Not necessarily a season, but
it could have been.
But it could have been like at least 2 episodes. You know, like that at least 2 episodes and not just one. At least 2.
Mm-hmm.
It left a lot of questions.
They rushed through their relationship.
Yeah, it left
which is why it felt like a filler episode.
Well, so on that note, I kind of felt that way about the multidimensional time machine one. I forgot what episode that was. I
agree. I agree.
I loved scenes in it. I loved it in and of itself as a standalone.
Again,
the cheesiest CGI digital stuff to me appeared in that scene, and also, I mean, where she's in space and weirdness, but it's just. Okay. It felt so out of place and weird. And like I said, I loved the scenes in and of themselves, you know, where she's this amazing warrior and like understanding how she had been shrunk to be a wife and a mother, and like how it took away all these other things.
It gave her so much depth. It gave Hippolyta her depth on why she needed to be there at the end. Again, like that was once again more reasoning to wrap up the end, like why all of these people are here at the end. But it still, as a standalone, felt shoehorned in. Like it didn't flow in the way that it needed to flow for it to make sense to me at the time.
Yeah, it was like here's all this, and then over here. By the way, we're going to see this one piece of paper here.
Which I mean, again,
side quest.
That whole character was her daughter's
comic. I like that side quest.
Yeah, I mean, again, side quest, but again, it was foretold because the comic book that her daughter made. I mean, that's essentially what it was.
So I thought that was interesting. They kept hinting at basically Dee being kind of a psychic, because like what she drew in the Atlas or comic books were all very predictive, but it almost was like something they just threw in there and they just let it fall away. Like it was irrelevant. I don't know. It was.
I feel like maybe if there's another season, maybe
I think
they'll
there's
go into
supposed to
that.
be.
Like, yeah, I'm not,
And
like I said, I didn't read the books.
And
I don't know how,
like, and I
if it
can't
continues
see
past that point.
if there's the next season not being about Dee. Like I can't like it would have to be. And like just very quickly, I want to talk about her performance. Like she's a young actress named Jada Harris, and like wow,
She was
man,
really good.
like wow, like how old is that little girl? She can't be any more than like 14 or something.
She was really good.
and like her range, her depth, the way that she cried, the way that she pulled you in, the level of empathy that she made you understand. Like, I mean, and for her to be that young to do it, like killer. Like she was killer. I wanted to give a shout out to her. Shout out to Jada Harris. I don't know you, girl, but you murdered that.
Amazing.
She was sweet, and her when we were talking about the whole modern music in a period piece, I felt like that made me think of the final scene with Dee where she reveals, spoiler alert, ka-ching, 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 her awesome Gen 1 arm, right?
You mean
and she
groovy.
yeah. You know, like when I said, in my head, I was like, oh, this modern music, you know, would have been sweet when she was choking her. X gonna give it to you. X gonna give it to you. That would have been, I would have been in. Like, I would have loved that.
He would have been in, and I would have been like, this is some bullshit. Okay.
I agree.
This is some bullshit.
Agree.
I know, but it would have been
And
so
I love
funny.
that
I would have been
song.
Like, I mean, there's a time and a place to use modern music, and I feel that like Raphael Sadiq nailed it for me in this show.
No, he
like,
did. Really
and then,
good.
but like, if you want to go back to like the corny kind of like Quentin Tarantino, all right, shit, that's when you would put like the DMX on that scene right there with her robotic hand. Like, I would have been like,
I just flashed to that Rick and Morty episode.
Oh,
They're just hitting the Nazi.
Yeah, bro.
So, you know, another thing that bothered me, and this might have just been about the writer to begin with. I don't know. Like I said, I never read, as we keep pointing out, we've not read the actual original book that this is based off of. But what bothered me a lot throughout the movie is they keep making this focus on that they had to get this book and they had to learn, this lodge is magic. I'm like, but as clearly illustrated in the Holy Ghost episode, which I think was episode 3, they fucking had magic they could use. And at no point did they like take it beyond that. Like at any time they could have, instead of Tick dying, they might've been able to pull up that priestess and curse that bitch to begin with. I mean, there's options they just didn't even look at. I'm like,
I have a problem with that.
Stop these people from coming in your house. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a problem with exactly what you're saying. Like, I understand that Tick had to die. I didn't read the book. We all said it. I just felt like there were doors that could have been opened that nobody opened, that were available to them, like you're saying, but like they were not explored. And instead, like, we're going to try and tug at your heartstrings, HBO style, and kill off the main character because we're HBO and that's what the fuck we do. And like, I don't want the main character to be killed off just because like I'm looking at HBO. I need my story to be complete, and all avenues need to be explored so the story makes sense. And like, that's a part of the story to me that like did not make sense.
Yeah.
Like, as we talk about the imperfections of this show, even there's a lot of things that are left unexplored in the way that the story could have turned out that they didn't touch on or hint at or explore, and made some choices and took an avenue to let's just kill off Tick. Spoiler alert. Main character dies in this motherfucker. You're watching HBO, so that's just how it is. But like, yeah, like there were things that could have happened that I felt like that they didn't even talk about, because of the magic that they already had that they didn't touch on. Like,
I feel like if there's a next season, they're gonna resurrect them, Jon Snow style. Like they're gonna.
I kind of hope not, but
I hope not.
I
mean, listen, hey, I want to see Jonathan Majors again. Okay,
with the magic,
that would be cool.
with them.
All right, but I think that it might happen though. Like I really do. Like,
let's go into that. Let's go into a quick what if. What do we want to see next season, or what do we think, if there is a next season, what this next season of this show could be? Because I have an interesting theory. And I want to share it, but
let's hear it. Let's hear you. I want you to go first.
All right, I'll go first. So here's my theory, and it's just from rewatching it the second time. I think Dee is going to be the focal villain of the second season, because whites no longer can use magic, and
Ask
so
questions. Go ahead.
there's going to be clash between the family, and that's usually what happens when you do a story, right? You set everybody up in the first, and then you put them in a little conflict, and then the second part is usually like all out crazy brawl. And that's why I think, especially the fact that Dee, instead of really being that kind-hearted little child that she was at the beginning, becomes this vicious person.
She gave you flashes of that too in the end. All right.
Exactly.
Like when she killed Christine in the end, she gave you flashes of that. And honestly, I think that you're hitting the nail on the head. Like when I said that I think that the next season is obviously going to be about Dee. I didn't really think that she was necessarily going to be the protagonist in it, but I thought that it would be about her, because there was a little hint of her being not so, childlike and nice anymore.
Yeah, she lost her innocence. She lost her innocence.
She lost her innocence, and she gave you those sprinkles of
this
evil.
one were not nice and innocent either. I mean, that was
everybody's monsters.
Everybody's monsters.
Kind of one of the things about the episode you guys don't like. Ticks shooting people in the head, just
everybody's monsters,
pulling teeth out. So she could be the protagonist monster still too. I mean, it's a possibility.
Yep, everybody's monsters. And
Tig's Shogoth belongs to her
now. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So, but here's why I don't. That makes me think she's not going to be the villain. I think she's going to be like, she might. Well,
go ahead.
Start off as the villain, find redemption in the end.
I don't know,
as we're always looking for redemption with all of these characters.
I just feel like it's not going to go down the way
I think.
Yeah,
I would love to see her murder a bunch of cops.
That would be awesome.
On the first episode of the second either. I would love to see her go back and X gonna give it to you with them cops. All right, that would be fun. That would be fun to watch.
Her use her magic. Possibly. Use her magic on them. Yeah, that would be fun.
Oh my God, she's Full Metal Alchemist now. She's got the arm.
That would be fun. That would be fun to see. But and then on the same side though of this coin of what we think is going to happen. We are talking about HBO, and we are talking about like a dude that looks like he might be a breakout superstar in those dress pants, Jonathan Majors. He can't just go off into the sunset. I really feel like they're going to bring him back somehow, which I'm not going to like. All right. Like, I'm not going to feel that. Like, I don't feel it. I didn't feel it with Jon Snow. I didn't feel it with this newest Wonder Woman. I don't like when dead motherfuckers come back to life. Okay. I don't like that shit. Like, I feel like it's boring and easy.
Enforced.
Like, easy. Yeah, it's boring, forced, easy. I don't like it, but I feel like we're about to see it.
But I feel like now that with magic only belonging to Black people.
Well, see, that's one thing I wanted to bring up. Like, is it all magic, or were they just focusing on that type of magic?
I think whatever that it focuses.
I'm thinking they mean it that way, but I'm thinking that again, that's a cheap, easy out too, because it could always be
all magic is just all magic in this particular universe. Yeah. You know, like magic is magic in this particular universe. Like, they're not going to try and like conjure some Game of Thrones magic or like.
They're not pottery.
Well, I mean, there's there's folk magic that white people have too. I mean, much like they showed some of the folk magic that's Black people. So, but I mean, that's where I'm like questioning, like.
Well, that's when the ancestors.
They very much kind of made it like, oh, there's other magic, but we can't do that other magic. We're going to use this magic from this book,
No, I didn't get the other magic literally.
Well, because of when they had the priestess come in and exercise the house and stuff, that's other magic.
Yeah.
There is.
I feel like
you might be on something
there. So
you might be on
that's awesome, Jenny.
Yeah, it's like there's a multiverse, so I guess why couldn't there be multi-magic?
I mean, I'm aware that so it's probably not going to happen that way. But I'm just
that's what Hippolyta did, though. That's where Hippolyta went. It was the multiverse.
Yeah, true. But like
that, she even said so.
Did she?
Yeah.
Okay, so
it was different times in different universes, and that's why all those coordinates.
Yeah. Different times. That's right. But like, I still just understood it to be like a very uniform kind
That's what
of
I
magic,
did too.
Like very uniform.
Magic is magic.
Magic is magic. There might be different levels to it, but like it's still magic.
Makes sense that when you're looking at like white one-dimensional, then there's just that white magic. So I mean, like I said, I don't really know that they're gonna go. I don't think that they're that imaginative with white people and magic and stuff. I just think it's interesting. You know what I mean?
But I think that you're just opening your mind to like having a bigger imagination than me, and then the way that, and then him too, than the way that like I thought about it. Like you might be onto something again.
All right, so you know
But
what?
then he also has a son.
Thing,
You guys forget he also has a son. Which
I know, and I feel like there's
could,
no way. Like,
well,
he's
they
not going to
could.
come back and see that son.
Well, again, they could just jump way into the future, and he could play his son.
You know, I thought that too. That there might be like a big time jump.
That could,
there might be a big time jump on the next season. All right, that like we're not actually going to be like anywhere near where we are now, and that it might be like current time. I thought that it might be current time in the next season with his son, and then still once again that like Dee would be grown up, but would be an antagonist.
Which would be amazing, I think.
Yeah.
Show up like a Gen 10 arm.
That would be the shit, actually.
Or with
I guarantee you the next
patch up a multiverse machine and go pull in a tick from another dimension.
Right. Like, wait, we jump time. It's current time. All right, the same not Jim Crow, but the same white fucking supremacy bullshit's happening right now. But now we got Dee and her fucking let's put some QAnon sprinkles on it and all that shit. And then but now we're talking about current events with Dee's fucking robot arm and then Tick's son. And then Tick comes magically back to life for no fucking reason at all.
But here's the thing, they can bring him back. They don't need to bring him back to life. They can just use him in that magic.
They don't need to bring him back to life. That's the whole thing. But they will.
No, but I want to bring Ruby back because I think Ruby just got. I'm mad about Ruby. I'm going to be honest. Like Ruby to me represented that character that you always see, that side character, like the plane chick.
They did show her tied up in that bed.
So I think she's in a coma.
So these people aren't quite dead because she said they're in a coma state.
They're not quite dead. Yeah,
they're not quite dead. They're not quite dead. So maybe we're gonna see some bullshit with taking a damn bed, all right, tied up in the bed on some bullshit machine, and you know that he'll be back, and so will Ruby, and then it'll just be festering until it fucking happens. Like I wouldn't doubt it, but like I would like to see a time jump, and then once again like this, like the same white supremacy bullshit is happening, but it's current day, and it's just a little bit different, but it's still current day. Robot arm with Dee. She's kicking ass, but like not being so nice about it, you know, like being evil about it.
But they can,
power goes to her head. Yep,
that's a good idea.
Exactly.
Another way they can bring Tig back is with in Obi-Wan style. In that magic zone, remember the
lame.
Remember the ancestor.
Or they used Gia, who sucked part of his soul out. Right when she was having sex with that time,
there's
and she just
so
pushes
many in for him to come back. So like, I just feel like we established he's coming back. He's
gonna come back. He's the main character. They're gonna J.R. Ewing his ass. It was all a dream.
Like it's definitely gonna happen. But like I still feel like
no, John.
It doesn't have
no.
JP, dude. No. It's gonna be Letty waking up like at the beginning of the Biggie video. With Puffy Combs rising up out of bed after a bad nightmare, and then
they're gonna play it.
It's gonna be modern times,
and they're gonna play it,
and they're gonna play it.
They're gonna play Juicy. All right, for you, they're gonna play Juicy.
Can it be Hill Street Blues ending where the kids playing with Snow Globe? The way Lost.
No, that was Seen Elsewhere. That was Seen Elsewhere.
Elsewhere. Sorry.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I do know what you mean.
It's gonna be the Snow Globe just for you, and then we're gonna play Biggie's Juicy just for you with the modern music.
Yeah, wake up in her fat ass mansion in the suburbs.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like they're all gonna come back. Christina, William, all the characters you think are dead. I just feel like we ain't seen the last of them shits yet. Like,
and if
George,
they do,
they're gonna bring George back.
Not George though. George is dead.
No,
Not George though.
George is Qui-Gon.
He's dead. He's dead. Yeah, he's
no
dead.
George
Which is a bummer because what is his name?
Who?
That actor that played George.
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
But he was awesome.
He's a phenomenal actor too.
He was
really
really
lots of fucking shit. Like he was really good. Like so many outstanding performances though. Like in this whole thing.
Yeah,
like,
it's just like any series.
Yeah,
it's not without its laughable moments. But that not. I guess if you were perfect every time.
I want to shout out to the Dick is evil moment, by the way, where like you actually have a penis turn into a snake.
I was waiting for Jenny to mention that.
Can't forget that.
I knew Jenny was going to bring this up.
And if you listen to the podcast, they're like, one of the ways you might be able to interpret this is that Dick is evil. We're not saying that's the only.
or males are evil, like because it was a like a very what was even happening? It was the
evil.
That was
Letty was in
creepy
the
scene where the white people were viewing them in the
their
lodge
rooms in the lodge in
for
episode
like the whole
2.
parallel of that was just like very
Yeah.
well, I mean, it was unsettling. It was like
They were watching them just go through.
I mean, and
weird shit.
but like that just still like once again, like I always feel like there was so much like real history that was going on in here, like whenever like they used to just look at black people like they were animals in the fucking zoo,
like viewing them in a zoo,
like look at Umbaku from Africa and like she feeds children just like we do, and you go to a fucking freak like exposition and like look at just a black bitch, like what the fuck, like so much like real shit happening in this show, like from the all of the racism, Jim Crow fucking bullshit to the sundown fucking towns, all right, like to that like that's real shit. That shit existed all over the fucking South. It's still here, and it was not isolated to the fucking South. Like I was talking to him about it, and I let him know that I wanted to talk about it briefly on the show. That like that was not something that was Southern and isolated at all. Like that was something that happened in places that are like blue liberal places, California, Oregon, Pennsylvania, where we live at, Michigan,
Ohio, Maryland,
Indiana, Illinois, like that is places, and there's a lot of it that still happens that you can't technically call it a sundown fucking place, but you know that you're not supposed to fucking be there, like period, and like that shit fucking still happens to this day and was extremely prevalent and a menace back in those fucking times. Like this, the real history that it touched on, and then like the thing that they ran with like the safe travel book, like I think it was called on the show,
the Safe Negro
Travel book is what it was called in the show, which was the green book, the Negro motorist green book, and like that was compilated by a bunch of black postmen that would basically give them all the information on like where it was safe to go and travel. Like that's how it was.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it was black postmen that would give the whole information on the green book, and they would put it together so you could know like where to travel. And I still feel like I need that shit now, because when I go down south right now and I'm traveling on vacation and I go through Somerville, West Virginia and shit, I can already tell where it's safe for me to stop and where I should not be stopping. Like give that to me right the fuck now, but even that was a real publication back in the day, even though I feel like it's still needed. And then I was talking like before the show started today about some of the art that was shot for shot. That was Gordon Parks's photography. All right. And like they took some of his scenes from his Life magazine, 1956. It was called The Restraints, and it has a longer name, but it was just like a day in the life of like your average black person. And like some of this was rural shit, some of this was city living shit. And they took a few of those photographs in the first episode and reenacted them shot for shot, and that was
pretty cool,
marvelous to behold as it was unfolding. Marvelous to behold, and not just Gordon Parks's work, but there was a photographer named Margaret Burke White, and they took some of her photographs as well and reenacted them shot for shot in the first episode. And that is when they're playing. It's James Baldwin who's doing like a talkover during those scenes, and like that is extremely famous photography of like this normal day in the life of the black experience, like from the 50s, and the homage to that. And they weren't even, to me, like, what is it called, like whenever you hide something in like a video game? Easter eggs. Like it wasn't an Easter egg, all right, it was intentional. Like you were supposed to recognize this if you recognize anything from just not even black history, but just black pop art, black knowledge, the black experience. And I really just thought it was so fucking cool that they took the time to do it so accurately. So many things about being black in this time they did accurately. And like I had talked to you guys on the prelim tip about the hair. Everybody's hair with the black women, they did such a good job keeping it natural and keeping the hairstyles so aligned with the times. Like you were looking at a lot of blowouts, you were looking at a lot of roller sets. I only saw one or two wigs like here and there. Like they were using black women's natural hair, styling it in accordance with the times, and little things like that make a difference when you're talking about production value. Some of the makeup choices and stuff they use, spot on. Little things like that you take the time to reenact it right. Like that stuff really, really matters. And I was really happy to see it HBO, good job, just like allowing that to happen and allowing them to fulfill it the right way instead of slapping a badass wig on somebody and then calling it like, I hate that shit. Like I could make a whole podcast about fucked up wigs on Black people. It could be a whole 10 fucking episode shit, and we could talk about a fucked up wig for a whole episode because there's so many of them. Like,
I'm sure
so
Zombie Takeover TV would be happy to host that. So go pitch that, girl.
Probably.
so many of them.
Welcome to Fucked Up Wigs.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a fun show. But like they didn't do that. Like they allowed like natural features to shine, and like that takes balls. And I'm sure that it took a lot of just explanation to the suits and convincing to the suits, like, this is what I have to do to make it look authentic. So I appreciate it. And there were so many of us that appreciated it. Like, it was something that people talked about, you know, like online, on social and things like that. But it was something that you just don't see. You just see somebody slapping a fucked up wig on somebody. Like, and then it's not the same, like, when it comes down with like white people and the extensions, you know, like, I mean, you know, I've seen some fucked up wigs on some white chicks, like for sure, like all day, but like, it's not the same. Allowing the authenticity to shine through was chef's kiss.
There you go.
Yeah, just the
Love that
illustration
shit.
of Black beauty and Black joy and just everyday life, that, you know, instead of like the fucked up everybody's a gangster, thug, or sports star, you know, it was gorgeous. It was so beautiful and needed. And
Black
yeah.
sci-fi and
Yes.
Black horror, you know, like that genre in itself is just so limited, you know, like when, like, it's just kind of like a recent thing that like Jordan Peele is coming out here guns blazing, like putting Black faces on and telling Black stories in like the horror genre. And horror, like I think I told y'all before, it is not my jam. Like he was in on this show from the opening sequence, like from the sci-fi and the aliens and the Cthulhu and all this shit. And like, I thought he was ready to fucking start jerking it, like right there in his chair. Like he was super fucking into it, like right there. I mean, like he was super fucking into it. All right. And I'm not a horror person. Like, I'm not really familiar with Lovecraft. Like, literally the only thing I know about Lovecraft is he wrote horror and he was a racist motherfucker. That's literally the only thing I knew about him. And like, that was it. So like, but he was in from like jump, like the opening sequence was happening and he was like, oh my God. Yeah. And I was just like, what the fuck am I looking at?
I was like,
am I
holy
about
shit,
to watch this shit?
War of the
Like,
Worlds is happening too. Oh my God, there's Cthulhu.
He was
holy
fired
shit,
up.
look at that hot red chick with 6 arms.
No,
That's dope.
he was fired up and talking out loud about it. You know what I mean? Like both of us were watching it for the first time together, and like he's like blabbering on, and then like and then it ends, and he was like, "I'm in, I'm sold," and I was like, "Calm your tits, dude." Like, okay, I'm watching it with you. I'm watching it. Like, let's see what we got. But it did end up being so much more than like the typical horror stuff that like he watches, that he's into, or that just like exists. And I appreciate all of that, and I'm glad that I watched it. I am. The scariest shit is the fucking monstrous white people and that shit, and it's always going to be the way that it is because that's real shit. Like, that's just what it is. That's always going to be the scariest shit forever. It's
which I think they really illustrated that well on Sundown, because you know, you see the horror of what these cops are about to execute these guys in the woods, you know, for basically being Black and having the audacity to drive on the road. And you know, in the end, they're, you know, the Sagoths, the Sagoths come out, things behind me start coming after them, and they end up in the cabin with 2 of the cops, and you know, the cops are still like terrorizing them.
It's like you're being in the cabinet with monsters. Still,
and
more
when the
monsters.
cop turns into a monster, it's fucking less scary for Black people. I
don't know if it was less scary, but it was like a different kind of scary. It was just like, oh shit, this is some more shit.
This
like,
is monster scary, not living scary.
It's just more
like
shit.
less dangerous to them than, you know, I mean, like, they could have died.
Like, oh, good, I can kill him now.
Yeah,
now you can just safely kill him. Yeah. Now you can
no
just,
repercussions.
Yeah, now you can just safely kill him. Like, well, he was a monster, you know? Like, he wasn't white no more. He was just a monster.
See that? That
wasn't white.
He's still gonna go to jail like he was a white man, though. Like, that's just how it is. Fucked up.
Probably.
But they did such a good job just tying in actual history and realness into that story, as the whole dichotomy of the show, I felt like, is just monsters versus monsters. Everybody's a monster. Watch out.
Yeah, I was real happy with the show. Like I said, especially the second time, because so much happened. I was like, if I don't rewatch this, I'm gonna be talking out of my ass. I mean, I do that anyways, but
didn't rewatch it. I didn't rewatch it. I didn't
Well,
rewatch it.
it's 'cause
I
you're
watched it
inferior
and took
to us.
copious notes.
I took like just like a little like read synopsis like through the episode so I can make sure.
She wikied it.
All right, so I can make sure that I remembered everything. But I
That's a
didn't
different
rewatch
podcast,
it, and
John.
I'm sorry. Hey, I'm glad that I didn't rewatch it. I am. I'm glad that I didn't rewatch it. Because I still have formulated the same opinion of it that I originally had. Which
No, me
was
too.
B.
Fair enough.
That's
B.
it.
Okay.
B.
I'm
John?
still A- about it.
Yeah,
Like,
B.
because one of the things I really, really loved is like, so the first 3 episodes, you thought you knew where it was going to go, and then you didn't. You thought you knew where it was going to go, and then you finally just figured out that you're just going to have to watch it. You know what I mean? Because like by the end of the first, you think, oh, okay, so they're going to have this battle in the lodge against the white magic people, and then end of episode 2, the whole fucking lodge and every member of it is destroyed with the exception of Christina. And then you're like, oh, okay, so
Right.
that's not what it was. And then you hit episode 3, and now you've got ghosts in a house, and
And then isn't episode 4 the Indiana Jones episode?
Yes.
is it? Let me look.
See,
I think it is.
A
See?
history of violence. Yeah.
Was that it?
Yeah, episode 4 is the
Yeah,
Indiana Jones
Yeah, it is
episode.
Indiana
Yeah,
Jones. That's
like-
my note.
like
huge
Indiana Jones
cavern,
episode.
like in the Last Crusade.
That
That's
totally,
my note.
that totally attributed to like you thought it was gonna go someplace, and then you got that bullshit ass standalone Indiana Jones bullshit. Like, and I was just like,
There were some Halloween
Ah.
3s in this crowd. Good standalones, but doesn't
Yeah.
fit in the series.
yeah, that was a
Ian
good
said it
standalone.
literally was side quest. You had to go through this whole thing to get 3 pieces of paper.
We need more
And then
XP.
you had to
We
go through
gotta
this whole
do this
thing so
side
there was a
quest.
time
Let's
machine
go.
to go get back in time and get the
We
book of
don't have
names,
enough
and then-
XP. We're not a high enough level to fight the next boss. We got to do this.
All right.
We got to cross this
then.
bridge. Press these
Indiana
buttons.
Jones side quest, Hippolyta side quest,
I loved it. I
Jamie
loved that.
Jamie Chung side quest.
quest.
All right, all wraps up in the end, and you see why the side quest had to happen. B.
Yeah.
I agree.
really-
I give it a B as well. I mean,
Yeah.
just same remarks in terms of why it got to be. Those side quests just kind of, I don't know, they didn't need to happen. You could have told the story more linear than having those kind of side quests. But again, I do recommend people to watch this
Oh yeah.
And-
oh
and-
yeah.
and
Watch
experience.
it and listen to the podcast.
Yeah, and
Not-
listen to the
yeah,
podcast.
important
and
show.
really,
It's
It is
important
an
for me to
important
listen to
show.
Lovecraft
Important
Country
show.
Radio.
it's a very
Yeah,
like we
it's-
talked about, very timely show,
Mhm.
and the acting, great. With some little exceptions here and there, but it's still. I mean, again, it sounds like I hated this show. I didn't hate it, but man, there was a lot to unpack, and definitely, if you watch it more than once, don't feel bad because there's a lot that happens right away.
I want to watch it more than once just for personal reasons. I didn't want it to taint the podcast. Like this is my
Oh
first.
no,
go
don't
through.
worry.
Like, but like, and it is what it is. But I'm definitely going to watch it again just because I know that I missed so much stuff because of the way that they told the story in a linear but not so linear kind of side quest kind of way. And like, I want to make sure that I go back and grab all the gold. So I gotta watch it. I gotta watch it again.
We missed a shoulder piece. We
Yeah,
gotta go back through.
I gotta make sure that I grab all my items and complete 100% of the game.
There
All
you
right,
go.
so Wait, John, what do you grade the show as? What you gonna give it a grade?
I'm gonna give it an A because just like A minus. Let's say A minus.
Yeah, that's what I
It
said.
wasn't perfect, but it was.
so
I
much
learned
good.
stuff. Yeah, I learned stuff from
Yeah,
it.
it's an important show for sure.
Yeah, like I always knew that it was fucked up for Black people back then.
And
Every
then,
separate, yeah. I mean, but
yeah, but the level of back then.
yeah, right. And
It's nice to get a little taste though, to give you a little reminder of exactly how fucked up it was. You know,
yeah,
like,
And
It's
how
nice-
I mean, I've
it's
seen
nice to get-
the footage
like
of
we've all seen like the footage, like the black and white footage of motherfuckers getting
the
sprayed,
dogs and the
dogs
stuff.
going across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, getting
Right.
sprayed and shit just for walking and trying to vote and shit. Like we all seen that, and we'll see little pieces of it on Martin Luther King Day here on Monday. But like to see it in color, to see the violence,
and
to see it in action,
to see the life around
to
it,
see the
is
hatred, to see it all in action.
is
Like
what did it for me.
It's always good to get a little taste of that, just to bring you back down to reality and have a little good reminder. I feel like it's good. Like
Yeah.
we don't want to sweep that shit under the rug.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Exactly. And one thing that like totally I didn't understand until the second watch through was that Emmett Till was her best friend, was Dee's friend. I didn't pick up on that. I didn't know he was
it
Bobo.
Bubba? Was it they called him all the
Bobo.
time?
He was
Yeah.
Bobo.
He was
Bobo.
Bobo.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he's like, "Am I going to have a good time on my trip?" And I thought, seeing it and thinking about when they were playing with the Ouija board briefly at Letty's house with the ghosts, and it gave him bad news on that.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't I just didn't pick up that because so much happened. There's so much stuff I missed.
So like he just thought like they were there like because the whole community turned out for the funeral,
Yeah,
like, he thought
I didn't
that's why they were
realize
there.
it was
like he didn't realize the
personal
personal tie-in that Dee
Right.
had like to that character, and he was feeling some kind of way about it on the second watch through. But like I totally got it. Like whenever it was happening.
Yeah, I didn't realize that I don't think they even said, they may have said his name, Emmett. One of the
They did.
adult
They
persons.
did.
They did. Okay.
They did.
It didn't click.
Yeah.
It didn't click. But like I said, I
this is
learned
probably
I
too
learned
much
a lot.
levity, but I kind of liked in the podcast how for them the Jump the Shark episode was the kids using the Ouija board. I think it was Ashley C. Ford pointed out. She's like, Black people don't play with that stuff. She's what she called
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yo,
She was
I'm
like,
gonna-
in a haunted house.
I'm gonna tell you right now that Black people only play with Ouija boards when they with the white friends. All right, you are never gonna see Black people with Black people playing with Ouija boards. All right, and like that was much less of a jump the shark moment though for me, because like there was a point when them Ouija boards came out, there was like a toy and it was hot, and I feel like everybody probably played with it, but now
Yeah, but they came out in
as the
the
years have
1800s,
gone
not in
by,
the 1950s, though.
yeah, like now we know that like we ain't playing with that shit. But like when that came out then, like as a little Hasbro toy, like people was playing with it.
Yeah,
So I
Parker
still,
Brothers Spirit.
it
Board.
was like Parker Brothers or Hasbro or some shit. It was like a
It was
toy.
Parker
Yeah, it was like a
Brothers,
toy, like and everybody kind of bought it just because like it was like a hot toy. So like I don't want to hear about that jumping the shark versus that Indiana Jones bullshit. All right, that was the jump the shark.
Well, to be
stuff.
fair, Shannon Houston loved the Indiana Jones thing. That was the writer. For the story.
I'm glad
just for the
she
show.
did.
She was all about Indiana Jones.
I'm glad for her.
And also the History of Violence episode, that was straight out after that movie. Like that's why they named it the History of Violence.
Okay.
Because she really liked the sex scene with Viggo Mortensen when they were going up the stairs, which is why you see
Oh,
that between William and Ruby.
that is the same.
That was a hot fucking scene.
That is the
though.
same. That it's a
was a
hot
hot
it's a
scene.
hot scene in History of Violence, and it was a hot scene
Hot
on
scene
this
in
one
this,
too.
yeah.
I mean, come on, like
It
that,
was-
because that dude that plays William is like really hot, and then like Ruby, like in her curves and her fucking beautiful skin,
Ruby was
and like
hot,
the
man.
dichotomy
Love
of
her.
like their skin tones together, like it's fucking beautiful to
It's
watch.
beautiful.
Yeah, like it's sexy and beautiful. Like that's a really good one, and the History of Violence is a good one too. Like
Mhm.
I didn't even pick that up.
You know,
I
I
mean,
mean,
I thought it was-
the
I thought it was
podcast. Like, I mean, the episode name struck me, and it did take me back to the movie. But I wouldn't have known that they had done that deliberately if I had not listened to their podcast.
Oh, okay.
See, I opted not to listen.
Same thing
after
with the Ouija
first-
board thing. Like, I wouldn't have known that they
Yeah.
really were going with the jump the shark.
I mean, like when I saw them playing with the Ouija board, it couldn't even cross my mind. I was like, like, and then it was just a little giggle, but like it wasn't like a jump the shark moment for me, like at all. Like
And they
that
were-
was
they were
Ashley C.
talking to
Ford. For
George.
her, it was a jump the shark moment. For me, I was just like, it was kids playing with the Ouija board until she said that. And I was like, oh, it's not really.
But I
mean,
can't
my
suspend
black
my
friends are like,
disbelief,
yes,
like,
good
for
stuff
all
that
the
white people
magic
do in
and
horror
stuff.
movies. We won't do that. She has told me that.
Right.
That was the horror part.
If I
in
can
the
suspend my
haunted house.
disbelief for like all the magic and stuff going on, I can suspend my disbelief about two
Or
black
Ouija
kids
board.
playing with a Ouija board. Like I'm good on that. All right,
Yeah.
like just get the fuck out of here with that Indiana Jones bullshit. I want to see.
I did like how it
agree
ended up.
100%.
Get out of here with that.
I did like though how it ended up connecting to the cave under Letty's house though.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on that until the
But
second.
wouldn't you have
watch
been
through.
pissed though if you found that out the whole fucking time? You could have just.
Oh yeah, that's like the end of Goonies. They could have just like went in the cave on the
Listen,
beach.
I really thought that the last night from the Final Crusade was going to be at the end of that bridge. All right, like straight up when it was happening.
Or they
I
were
was
going to
like,
hand you a coke.
I was
Wasn't
like,
that the commercial?
yep. I was like, it's here, it's happening. Like we're gonna see the cup of Christ in the last night. Like it's totally happening. Like,
Yeah, that's great. But we're here for the book of names. Where
yeah,
do we
like
go for that?
yeah, like okay, it's like take the cup, but like do you have the book of names? Oh yeah, right here.
Oh wait, hold on.
Should have happened. It might as well have happened.
But I have to mention one thing that really did, like, I kind of touched at it a little bit, but they have an indigenous character who's also kind of trans. She was two-spirited, intersex, actually, I guess.
Oh
is
yeah,
what
she
was.
yeah.
And
She had
I just
both
thought the
sides.
way that they dealt with her was really
Rush.
not good. You know, like they just slit her throat, and then, you know, aside
That
from
was
letting
it.
me
You
feeling
never
very
saw it.
bad
You
when
know
she
what?
finally got
I
told that she was
totally
killed and not let go. It was
Forgot
just
about that. I forgot about that. That's another dead end of something that should have led to something and didn't. And I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of those moments that happen throughout very Game of Thrones leading up to like big clues where it looks like it obviously should lead to some sort of conclusion and it just doesn't, and you have to just go with it.
well,
I
that
don't
it's
like
more
that.
that, you know, the ongoing genocide of indigenous people that's happening now. There's like just indigenous women disappear, and it's just, you know, it was, I don't know if they were trying to illustrate that point or if they were just treating them as disposable. You know, I just,
Yeah.
it makes
I-
me very
I don't-
uncomfortable.
I don't know either, because like that is like kind of a hot topic, and I think that they might have just like missed it. Like it's just one
Yeah.
of those things that just gets
Right,
left
she
unsaid.
spoke the language,
Yeah.
right? And she could translate,
did.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So
Which
I
is
mean,
why
I feel like
Montrose killed her, because he was trying
Exactly.
to stop Tit
Yeah.
from doing
Whether
any
there
more, which
was-
Montrose was just stupid. You know what I mean? It was just like his shit
You
made
know,
no sense. His way of trying to protect was so fucking dumb that it drove me nuts. I'm like, you cannot, you're an intelligent, well-read man. What the fuck is wrong with you?
yeah.
You know
He made so
knowledge
many
is power.
mistakes.
Come on.
He made so many mistakes. Like, and I mean, those were just choices, I guess, by the writer. But like, he made so many mistakes that I was just like,
But
ugh.
boy, did he act his ass off.
He
Oh,
did.
holy shit.
Yeah, he did. Like
Amazing.
so good.
Like, wow. He was so conflicted. Like, holy cow. He went through some shit.
One of the most violent
Like-
sex scenes I think I've seen in a while. Like,
Oh man, when he spit on his hand.
like and like I'm not really like a fan of violence like in sex scenes, so like I was truly not comfortable. Like it wasn't a gay shit at all. Like
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
so
like,
down.
that looked hateful.
It was
raw.
it was the violence about it. It was the violence and like that, and I was just like, oh, this is so violent. Like this is not my jam. You know?
Yeah,
like,
no.
and it was intentional.
Yeah.
I could tell that it was an intentional choice. Like that's what they wanted to portray, but it just like wasn't my jam. You know, like that might be somebody else's jam, but it's just not my jam. Like no, thank you.
Yeah.
Like I like it a little bit more tender.
It was monsters again. I mean,
Well, hey, that's
it's the theme.
It's true.
It's the basic
It's
theme.
the theme. You're right.
Into
Everybody's
it,
a
you
monster.
know?
You're right.
Everyone's
that
a
was
monster.
him
That was
showing,
the
and he
theme
was,
of the
he was
show.
showing his monster side for real. That's so true. Everybody's a monster. It's so true.
I feel like,
So,
I mean,
on a
I want to
happier
keep talking
note-
about this forever, but I think we're like going to hit a 2-hour mark here soon. So
Really? Oh my god!
we're getting up
I'm
there. So,
sorry.
no apologies needed. This is a great show. It was a great series, and there is so much that
I mean, it's a whole series. Like it's
Yeah.
so long, and I thought that like originally this was going to be like a multi-episode kind of thing, just because we were talking about an entire series, and I thought it might be a little bit long because we were
Yeah.
talking about an entire
There's a
series.
lot to
Yeah.
unpack, man.
And especially one
And
that
there's so
has so
much
many
we haven't
layers.
unpacked.
Yeah, and there's so much that has so many layers and different storylines all coming together like this particular series does. But like bottom line is like it's an important series, and like everybody should
Definitely.
definitely watch it.
It's relevant.
Yeah.
It's, if not at any other time, it's relevant now. So it's
Well,
relevant.
it's been relevant the whole time. Unfortunately, it'd be great one day
Yeah.
if it just
It has.
becomes part of history and not continuously
has.
prevalent. That would be a lovely
Yeah.
world to live in. So with that, John Paul, any last thoughts? Because as
I mean,
Charlene said, good show.
again,
It's relevant, needs to be watched. I don't think.
I mean, I agree with everybody's sentiment in that regard, and I don't know. I think we all really interpreted this show in so many different facets, and that's what was so brilliant about it. I mean, my in-laws even watched this, and my mother-in-law, hi Mary, if she watched this episode, hates horror. She's not a fan of it. We've tricked her to see some horror movies, but because they were funny. This is not a funny show with
No,
horror.
sure isn't. No, there's no giggles.
And but it's poignant, and it tells a really good story in some regards. And again, we've talked about the negatives, but it's still I can't say enough. I have to recommend this. People really should watch this, and
Yeah.
not necessarily just like watch this because it's a good history lesson. No, watch this because it's
It's
so
good.
layered. Because it's so layered in the acting, in the storytelling, in the visuals, and in the different genres. I mean, I can't say enough. I really did enjoy it a lot. I mean, there's some
sure.
gripes, but hey, people
Everyone's got
definitely
gripes.
watching.
Yeah, no one's gonna love everything,
Right.
You know, like,
but-
and no one's gonna find everything perfect, but like, it's an
Right. We
important
can't all be
show.
like John at the beginning of the show.
Oh man, I mean, he was 10 out of 10 the first 5 minutes. He was 10 out of 10, like absolutely. But like it's an important show. It is poignant. It's relevant to current times. It's relevant to past times. Everybody should definitely check it out. Like, it's definitely more than a history lesson. And HBO, you know, like, they're gonna put their foot in it. Like, they're not gonna do anything that really is whack. Like, they have a good standard of what they put out, you know, like, their standard is the standard. Like, not to sound like Mike Tomlin, but like, it is their standard is the standard. Like, it's going to be basically gold if it's HBO is putting it out. And like, this here is no different than what their standard is. It's very good.
Okay. Well, with that, thank you, John. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, John Paul. And go watch the show.
That's right.
Yeah. Just watch it. It's really good.
All right, Mary. With the non-stop pop from stainless steel. Go hard, getting busy with it. But I got such a good heart, I'll make a motherfucker wonder if he did him damn right. And I'll do it again, 'cause I'm right.